What's going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. We're finally here. I have finished the melee DPS tier set list. Not tier list. Not tier set list. The tier list. Oh my God, it's been so long. Get your coffee. So we are going to break down all of these melee specs in the game. And we're going to break them into a scoring system, which I'll get to in a second. I've got them all right here. This document that I'm showing you, I'm going to put on my Discord channel. So if you want to see all of this information, all the detailed information, it's on my Discord channel after this video goes live. Okay? It basically explains why I gave a particular score to each individual spec, like why the score exists. Okay? Now, we're going to talk about the scoring system really quick here. So it's split into a couple different categories. We've got damage, and damage is split into two. So single target damage is worth 5 points. AoE damage is worth 5 points. Survivability is worth 5 points. Utility is worth 5 points. I did not just want to make a tier list based solely on the numbers that a spec was producing, because it just doesn't feel, it feels disingenuous. Like, there's so much more going on with each individual spec in World of Warcraft, and it's important to remember everybody's ability to survive, everybody's ability to bring utility to the group, whether you're in a raid or in Mythic Plus, right? So they all have different scores based on that, and it's important to keep those in mind when you're evaluating how good you think a spec might be on your end. So that's the first part. That's the scoring system. It's out of 20. Everybody gets a score out of 20. That's going to correspond to the tier list maker here. You can see S tier is going to be 19 to 20. A tier is 18 to 18.5. B tier is going to be 17 to 17.5. And C tier is 16 to 16.5. That's how I'm going to rank everything. I'm going to put all these guys in different places at the end of the video. Okay? The final thing I do want to say is that there's going to be no scoring here for mobility. Oops, don't want to move that stuff. For mobility or ease of use. Those are actually really important metrics for melee classes. And the reason I don't want to talk about mobility in this video is because it's kind of just a wash across the board. Every single one of these melee specs has a lot of mobility. Even DK, for example, gets 2 charges of their movement skill now, plus Wraith Walk, right? So that's really, really good. Ret Paladin might be the only spec, and Survival Hunter would be a little bit like this too, but they're the only 2 specs that have a little bit less mobility than the rest of the group. But honestly, even when I've been running through all these dungeons and playing them, I have not found that to be any problem whatsoever. I think that Ret Paladin's actually okay as long as you're using your mobility at the right time. Now, it definitely has a little bit less than like a monk or a rogue, for example, but on the whole, I'm going to say that mobility is a bit of a wash, that they're all mobile enough to make the content work, okay? So just keep that in mind. Yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about there. So let's move my notes over to here. So I've got them, and I'm going to get the video up here, and I'll reset this to the beginning. Now, I've got a long video that I'm just going to run through here, and I'm going to go through each and every spec while I'm doing it. And I'm just going to give you a little synopsis on why, a little summary, if you will, on why I think each particular spec that I'm talking about deserves the role that it gets. And we're going to start out with Frost DK. So Frost DK, the total score that I'm going to give for Frost DK is 17.5. The survivability for Frost DK and the utility for Frost DK, I mean, for both specs of Death Knight, are really, really incredibly strong. Their survivability is 5 out of 5, and their utility is 4.5 out of 5. Things like Death Strike, Icebound Fortitude, AMS, AMZ, 20% more stamina from Veteran of the Third War. You know, they get AMZ for a raid is really, really important. Even in Mythic Plus, they can get Blinding Sleet and Asphyxiate, which is your single target stun, and then Death Grip, of course, being very, very strong. For Frost in particular, you're looking at Frostworm's Fury is also huge. So that their total score that I'm going to be giving them is 17.5. Their single target is 4 out of 5. And their AoE is also 4 out of 5. They're actually quite strong on both of those fronts. They're not like the best in the game, I don't think, but you can run, you know, a big Breath of Sindragosa build to go crazy on AoE, and you lose a bit of single target damage, or you can do kind of the Oblit build, which we've been seeing right now, which both has strong single target damage and AoE damage, actually. It actually does fine on both of those fronts. So it has pretty good flexibility. It has a couple different build options, which is always a good thing to see, and makes the spec much more flexible, which is really good. It's also part of the 100K club, which I'm giving to lots of different specs to talk about their ability to pump out AoE damage, and they need to be able to get over 100K at least. And there are some specs in the game that I've been trying that have been really struggling to reach that mark. But overall, Frost DK is looking quite good, 17.5 there. Let's go to Unholy DK. So once again, the survivability and the utility are the exact same. 5 out of 5 for survivability, 4.5 out of 5 for their utility. They do actually lose out on the Frostworm's Fury, so I'm gonna it's maybe not quite as good, but the general utility that's there for Death Knight is incredibly strong. They do still get access to things like Blinding Sleet, and the Ghoul is like debuffing enemies all the time, making them deal less damage to you and increasing the damage that you deal to them. Their single target damage wasn't super impressive to me, which was a little bit of a disappointment. I do think that they have a good single target build they can bring to raid, but it's not the worst by any means. But it just didn't impress me a whole lot and was a little bit more difficult to execute than some of the other specs in the game. Their AoE damage, of course, is probably one of the best in the game. 5 out of 5 for their AoE damage. They just absolutely can crush it in AoE. So, actually, no, I had 4.5 out of 5, sorry, for their AoE damage. So, they're really, really strong on the AoE front. You can get huge epidemics. The more, the merrier. And the more you scale into the later parts of the expansion for Unholy DK, the better their damage is going to get. So, 17.5 out of 20 for Unholy DK. Let's move to Havoc Demon Hunter. Havoc is in a really good spot. It's been in a really good spot for the entire beta. They picked up some amazing Shadowlands legendaries and Covenant abilities that just make them do incredible amounts of damage. They're part of the 100K club. Unholy DK was also part of the 100K club for AoE damage. So their damage for single target, I'm giving them a 4 out of 5, and their AoE is going to be 5 out of 5. Their survivability is also 5 out of 5. Things like Consume Magic. They just get 10% leech when they're in meta. They get 5% leech all the time. They just get Illidari Knowledge, so 6% less magic damage taken at all times. Darkness is a huge thing they can bring. They get lots and lots of healing from, like, the Fell Devastation from Collective Anguish. The Hunt gives you 25% more healing. You have Shattered Souls that you're kicking out all the time, giving you more healing. You can take the Necrolord ability. What was it called? Fodder to the Flame. Sorry. Fodder to the Flame gives you that demon that will also heal you. You get Demonic Ward. So Blur is another good cooldown. They just have so many cooldowns that make them really, really tanky. Their survivability is 5 out of 5. Their utility, I'm giving them 4 out of 5. They do have Chaos Brand for the raid. That's 5% more raid-wide magic damage. Your casters are going to thank you. And, of course, they have Imprison for Mythic Plus, Sigil of Misery, Chaos Nova, Darkness once again. They have a lot of tools there, so 4.5. So, in total, Havoc Demon Hunter is 18 out of 20. Very good score for them. Feral Druid. Let's go to Feral. Really good survivability. 5 out of 5 for survivability and 5 out of 5 for utility. They have bear form tankiness. They can get bark skin, instant free regrowths. Survival instincts is there. They've got renewal, a lot of good survivability. For utility, they get Mark of the Wild, 3% versatility for the entire raid if you want it. For Mythic Plus, you have things like Cyclone, Typhoon, Maim is a single target stun, Mighty Bash is a single target stun, Stamp Roar for raid and Mythic Plus, Innervate for healers, Mass Entangle, Ursul's Vortex. It's insane, guys. They get so much utility. So 5 out of 5 for utility, 5 out of 5 for survivability. Their damage, I'm going 4 out of 5 for single target and 4 out of 5 for AoE. They are also part of the 100K club. I don't know if I show it here in this footage, but there are multiple times in dungeons where I've gotten over 100K. There's just a really good package now. Here's the survivability kicking in. My healer isn't here. I'm just keeping myself alive with free regrowths, and then I do a Convoke here. Gives me a couple of extra healing as well. So overall package for Feral Druid is very, very good, and I'm giving them 18 out of 20 for their score. The play style for Feral Druid just feels so fun to play now, and it was very frustrating to play in previous expansions where you had to really manage your energy much more tightly than you used to. So anyway, Feral looking very strong, 18 out of 20 for them. Survival Hunter, moving right along here. Their survivability is one of the worst of all the classes here. So they only have Survival of the Fittest, which is a 2-minute cooldown. They have Turtle, and they have Exhilaration Healing. And then they get 10% Leech from their pet. But that's it. Like, think of all the other specs that I've listed, just multiple DRs and healing. So 3 out of 5 for survivability on Survival Hunter. Kind of an ironic name. 5 out of 5 for utility, though. They have an Intimidation stun from their pet. They have Binding Shot, Scatter Shot, Trank Shot, Tar Trap, Freezing Trap, High Explosive Trap, Steel Trap, Disengage, Misdirection, Camouflage, Harpoon. It's insane. Like, they just have so much stuff going on there. They also have the new Owl talent, which I haven't really tried yet. It might just be bad, but 5 out of 5 for their utility, okay? 3 out of 5 for their survivability. Now, in terms of their damage, their single target damage is actually quite good, and I'm giving them 4.5 out of 5 for single target damage. It was some of the highest that I was able to pull off. You can see the Mongoose Bites hitting there for over 100k. If you play it properly, which again, guys, I'm never playing these all like 100% optimally, so just keep that in mind. Lots of you guys can probably play this better than me, but the single target damage I was very impressed with. I really enjoyed how hard it was able to slap with those Mongoose Bites. So really, really good there. Their AoE damage is also quite good. If you do a bomb build, there's the new Bombardier build. It's also very, very strong. So I'm giving them 4.5 out of 5 for their AoE damage as well. Overall package on damage is Survival Hunters actually doing well. They're able to pump out quite a bit of damage. The footage I wanted to show you here was just of the single target damage because it was some of the highest that I did on any of the specs. You can see we're beating the Windwalker Monk on single target damage here. So it's good. It's good, guys. Survival Hunter's looking good. Its only real drawbacks are the fact that it is not as tanky as some of the other specs have been. So in total, the score for Survival Hunter is 17 out of 20. It's really losing some points because of the survivability there. That's really where it's lost most of its points, and that's an important factor to keep in mind when you're seeing how all these specs are playing out. Because if you can't survive on your own in a key, then you're kind of in trouble there. So let's move on to Windwalker Monk. Big AoE damage from Windwalker Monk. They are getting 5 out of 5 for their AoE damage coming into Dragonflight here. You can see they're definitely part of the 100k club, getting up to 120k on this poll. Their single target damage is also quite strong. You saw in the last video it was really good. So I'm giving them a 4.5 out of 5 for single target damage. It's very, very good. The rotation is smooth. Their survivability is also good, and their utility is also strong. So survivability is 5 out of 5. You have things like Afterlife, Passive Healing. You have Expel Harm, Detox, Fort Brew, Diffuse Magic, Eye of the Tiger, Dampen Harm, and Touch of Karma. They're all there. So lots and lots of ways to keep yourself alive. Utility, they have the Mystic Touch debuff for the entire raid. Makes the boss take 5% more physical damage. That's really important. Paralysis, Ring of Peace, Leg Sweep for Mythic Plus. So lots of good utility coming out of the Windwalker Monk. They have a bunch of passive things for their allies now too in the class tree. So Close to Heart gives all your allies like 8% more healing, which is ridiculous. Generous Pour is 4% avoidance for everybody, which I'm sure you guys have seen in your dungeons. Windwalking, of course, is 4% ally movement speed. So Windwalker really does have the entire package, and they have a 19.5 rating out of 20. They are very strong right now, and I think that it's probably the best melee class. We'll check at the end, but very strong for Mythic for Monk there. Moving forward, Ret Paladin. Holy cow, this thing absolutely is blasting in Mythic Plus. I'm having so much fun with it. Their AoE damage is 5 out of 5 for sure. It's just really good. You can see it. They're part of the 100k club. I believe I hit it in this, if not on the next pack. Yeah, I think we get over 100k here. There you go. Their single target damage is fine. I'm going to put it at 3.5 out of 5. There's definitely moments where it's frustrating, and I don't like playing Execution Sentence at all. Not saying you shouldn't play it. It's actually very, very good. It's probably the way to go in a raid environment. I just hate the cooldown, honestly. I hate the way that it plays. I don't like it at all. Their damage though is okay in single target. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's certainly not as good as my Survival Hunter that I was finding. So 3.5 out of 5 for their single target damage. Now, survivability for Ret Paladin is also a little bit lower. They're kind of down in the lower ranks there with Survival Hunter. They only have Shield of Vengeance, and then they have a little bit of healing from Judgment of the Light and Golden Path, and then they have Selfless Healer, so they can get that flash heal going, and then they have Bubble. Like, they basically have nothing. They literally don't even have a single DR, like a damage reduction at all. You can take one, but then you have to get rid of your Shield of Vengeance. You can take Divine protection, but then you have to get rid of your Shield of Vengeance. You don't really want to do that. So survivability is actually very low for Ret Paladin, 3.5 out of 5. Their utility, though, is off the charts. They have a new battle res. They have Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Protection, Bubble to soak mechanics. They have Sacrifice, Devo, Aura, Cleanse, Repentance, Blinding Light. It's all there. So in total, Ret Paladin is 17 out of 20. Let's move on to Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogue, I was honestly really disappointed with. Very frustrated trying to get them to perform really well at all. This is one of the best pulls that I actually had here, was doing 50k on this small little pack. I'm honestly not the best at Assassination Rogue, so take this with a grain of salt, okay? That's your disclaimer here, but AoE damage, I'm giving them 3 out of 5. It's just, they either don't do a lot of AoE damage, or it's incredibly difficult to execute their AoE damage, and for that reason, I'm giving them a lower rank. Even if it's like user error, like it's because of me, it's difficult, in my opinion, to pull off their AoE rotation, and that makes them do less damage overall and makes them less appealing as a spec, in my opinion. So 3 out of 5 for AoE, 3.5 out of 5 for single target. There are some really, really cool burst combos you can do. Like, they have some incredible burst in Assassination Rogue, but like the consistent damage for me wasn't really there, and that was kind of frustrating. However, Rogue has incredible survivability and incredible utility, probably the best in the game. Survivability, they've got Evasion, Cheat Death, Cloak of Shadows, your magic immunity there, right? Crimson Vial, Soothing Darkness, Atrophic Poison is the new DR. Iron Wire is really, really good for Assassination Rogue in particular. Their utility, they can give the whole raid 3% less damage taken from the raid boss because of Atrophic Poison. Really good. Again, Cloak of Shadows gives them that magic immunity so they can soak there. Overall score for Assassination Rogue, 16.5 out of 20. Wasn't really my favorite. Let's go to Subtlety Rogue. The damage on Sub Rogue, in my opinion, was much, much better. The AoE damage you can see here gets pretty high. I'm giving them 4 out of 5 for AoE damage and 4 out of 5 for single target damage. They really just have consistent damage on both of those fronts. Every single pack that I was running in the Mythic Plus here for my Sub Rogue, I was just hitting 70 to 90k basically on every AoE pack. It's always going to give you that consistent damage over and over again. It plays really smoothly. I think it's very, very strong. It's definitely doesn't maybe have the burst potential of some other classes, but it has the consistent damage there, which is really, really good. On top of that, their single target damage is very strong. Shadow Strike hits really hard. They have really strong single target damage, in my opinion. So 4 out of 5 there. Their survivability and their utility, of course, is the exact same as all the other rogue specs. It's very, very strong. If you take elusiveness with like feint and evasion, you get extra bonuses if you don't think you're going to need the cheat death, although cheat death is always very good. You probably don't want to spec out of that. But elusiveness is actually very strong now, giving feint. Feint gives you 40% AoE damage reduction. With elusiveness, you get 60% AoE damage reduction, and then 20% just damage reduction all over the place. So their survivability is absolutely insane. The utility for Sub Rogue actually goes up a little bit, 5 out of 5 for utility, because they have the Shroud of Concealment and then Shrouded in Darkness, which gives your entire raid team 100% movement speed if they're standing in your Shroud, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So actually insane utility for a raid there. It's like a Stamp Roar for Druid, but like way longer. So that's very cool. Overall score for Sub Rogue is going to be 18 out of 20. And I think that they're very, very strong in general. Let's go to Outlaw Rogue. Didn't have really good dungeon footage here for Outlaw Rogue, so my apologies there, but Outlaw Rogue's going to get single target's going to be 4 out of 5, and AoE is going to be 4 out of 5 as well. Actually, they've really buffed AoE for Outlaw Rogue in Dragonflight, because now Blade Flurry has an 8-target cap instead of its old 5-target cap. So really, really good stuff for Outlaw Rogue. Their AoE is much stronger than it used to be, and their single target damage is very good as well. It's still the frantic, crazy playstyle that we all know and love. The addition of Thistletea has really made the rotation for Outlaw Rogue in particular incredibly strong, and it really helps to shore up those weaknesses when you're not getting your procs on Pistol Shot and you're starting to run out of energy. Makes it very, very good. So, of course, the survivability is there. Again, the one thing that Outlaw Rogue gets survivability-wise that the other rogues don't get is 10% more stamina. So they just get 10% more health at all times, which actually makes them the tankiest of the three just on that front, which is really good. And of course, they get Leeching Poison like everybody else does, 3% DR from Atrophic Poison. Really, if you ever die on a rogue, it's going to be your fault. So here's the score. The total score for Outlaw Rogue is going to be 17 out of 20. So Assassination was 16.5, Sub was 18, and Outlaw Rogue's going to be 17 out of 20. It's just a little bit less than Sub Rogue, a little bit has a little bit less damage, I would say, potential than Sub Rogue. It's actually very, very close to being there, but it's also just lacking some of that cool utility in terms of the Shrouded in Darkness, which is very strong. Unfortunately, Outlaw Rogue kind of got shafted on the utility because they lost their raid-wide buff from Restless Crew, but they still get 17 out of 20. Good stuff for Outlaw Rogue. Okay, moving on. Enhancement Shaman. Of course, this is kind of my baby, and but it has just been performing incredibly well, even post-nerf. This is post-nerf. 25% nerf is in. Their damage is so good, guys. It's crazy. I'm giving them 5 out of 5 for AoE damage and 4 out of 5 for single target damage. Their AoE damage is just insane. There are frequently, like multiple times on multiple packs in multiple dungeons where I'm getting over 100k DPS. It's just so incredibly strong, and the build diversity for Enhancement Shaman is the best in the game. Nobody has as many builds as Enhancement Shaman does. None of them do. So that's like a really important thing in my books. You get lots of variety there. But survivability-wise, they're 5 out of 5, and utility is 5 out of 5 because they have a 40% DR with Astral Shift. They get 20% DR with Ghost Wolf. They have Earth Ellie, Earth Shield, Reincarnation, Nature's Guardian, Ancestral Guidance, Healing Stream Totem. There's so many ways to keep yourself alive as an Enhancement Shaman. It's insane. And on the utility, of course, Shamans always have the big tool belt, right? Cap Totem, Tremor Totem, Purge, Cleanse, 12-second ranged kick, Earth Ellie, Earth Shield, Windrush Totem for the raid, Hex, Poison Cleansing Totem, Stone Skin Totem, Tranquil Air Totem, Thunder Shock, Wind Fury Totem. They have so many things they can offer the raid and so many things they can offer a Mythic Plus group. Utility is off the charts. So altogether, Enhancement Shaman is getting 19 out of 20. Big score for them. Okay? Last two here. Warrior. Arms Warrior first. Damage-wise, Arms Warrior is looking very strong. I'm giving them 5 out of 5 for AoE damage because they are part of the 100k club, and there were multiple times where their damage profile was very, very consistent like Sub Rogue. I never lacked damage at all. I always had cooldowns up, ready to go. I was always pumping out a strong amount of AoE damage, and the more enemies that you get, the better that they do. You know, I'm only doing 60k here, but if you get a big pack together, they get well over 100k easily. So really enjoyed Arms Warrior a lot, actually. It's really fun to play. Single target damage, I'm giving them 4 out of 5 because they're getting really good execute windows, and they have very strong damage even outside of an execute window. Mortal Strike is hitting so hard, but really it's execute that makes this really, really strong in terms of single target damage. Survivability-wise, 5 out of 5, and utility-wise, 5 out of 5. Again, they have so many ways to live, guys. Defensive Stance, 20% DR. Spell Reflect, Rallying Cry, Victory Rush to heal you, Pain and Gain to heal you. Reinforced Plates is 20% more armor. Second Wind healing is insane. It's off the charts. Leeching Strikes, Bitter Immunity is a new ability coming in. Die by the Sword, Fueled by Violence. For utility, they've got the Battle Shout for the raid, of course, giving everybody 5% more attack power, and they have Rallying Cry to give everybody more health, which is really, really good. In Mythic Plus, you have Intimidating Shout, Stormbolt, Wrecking and Shattering Throw, and then Shockwave as a 2-second stun. So 19 out of 20 for Arms Warrior. 19 out of 20 for them. Good stuff. Fury Warrior, last spec here. Single target damage is 4 out of 5. AoE damage is 5 out of 5. Once again, they're part of the 100k club. They're doing really, really well, and they really pump in the DPS. I'm doing 100k on 4 targets here. I mean, they're really good on the AoE damage. So really good stuff in terms of their DPS numbers. Survivability-wise and utility, I mean, Warrior is just, as I mentioned with Arms Warrior, it's insane. Spell Reflect is so good. Rallying Cry, Defensive Stance, Victory Rush. For Fury Warrior in particular, you get Bloodthirst. You get Enraged Regeneration, which is a DR and gives you more healing. If you die as a Fury Warrior, it is your fault every single time. They get Gushing Wound, and they can make their Gushing Wound hit AoE, which means you're leeching off of all those enemies that you have a Gushing Wound on. So really good survivability. And then utility, once again, they have 2 really strong raid-wide buffs. 5% attack damage and 30% more health with the Rallying Cry. So very, very good stuff for Fury Warrior. They are also getting 19 out of 20 for their rating. Okay? So those are all the specs right there. In order, those are all the rankings that I'm going to give to them. We're going to get to the tier list maker now, and let's put them all into the slots that I want to put them into. So let's start back at the top of the list here. We're going to go with Frost DK. And we're going to put it right here. It is in the B tier. according to the rating that we get, it is 17.5. Let me just move this over here. I'll make it nice and big for you guys, but I do want to bring over my little Word document so you can see exactly what I was doing there. So you guys, some of you guys are absolutely going to disagree with my assessments here, and I understand that. Just keep in mind why I'm giving each of these the rating that I'm giving it. So Frost DK, for example, it is 4 out of 5 for its damage, but its utility is actually, you know what? I think we're going to change that. We're going to go 5 out of 5 here. Just to be a Chad. So we're going to move it up to the A tier. I think it is actually worthy of the A tier now that I'm looking at it. So 18, it's got an rating of 18 there. So there you go. I changed it, okay? Don't be mad at me anymore. Let's go to Unholy DK. It has a 17.5. I think the reason it has 17.5, I'm going to give it that, is because it doesn't have Frostworm's Fury in the utility. It is missing a big AoE freeze. If you're doing Mythic Plus a lot, that's actually no joke. Getting a big AoE freeze on everybody for 3 seconds can be a really big deal in high-end Mythic Plus. It can absolutely help your tanks just recover a little bit, which is really good. But the rest of it's really solid. Their single target damage is also hurting them a little bit. That's why it's a little bit lower, okay? So that's where I'm going to put them. They're in the B tier there. Havoc Demon Hunter is 18 out of 20. Let's put them up here. They're up with Frost DK. They're actually a little bit higher than Frost DK. Frost DK, I believe, was... Oh, no, we had them at 18. They're the same. So Havoc Demon Hunter is 18 out of 20. Lots of good stuff going on with Havoc. Of course, single target AoE damage. They're doing lots of damage, and they have lots of survivability and utility as well. Feral Druid, we have them at 18 out of 20 as well. Coming up here, very, very good. Fun to play. They've really fixed the energy resource generation, combo point generation stuff for Feral Druid. I love playing it now. Survival Hunter is 17 out of 20. They're coming down here with Unholy DK. Again, they're a little bit lacking in the survivability. This is the big problem for Survival Hunter, is that 3 out of 5 on their survivability. It's just not really that good. So they're going to go down there. Oh, sorry. Windwalker Monk is next. Their total score was 19.5, baby. They are right at the top. And I don't believe anybody else has actually got a 19.5 rating. So they are, in fact, at the very top, and I believe that they are going to be the best melee spec. We'll check at the very end there. Ret Paladin is going to be 17. Really, what's the problem with Ret Paladin is, again, it's survivability, just like Survival Hunter. It's really losing out on the survivability, and the single target damage to me did not feel like it was really getting there. I always struggled with the single target damage. So their AoE is fantastic, their utility is fantastic, but they just struggle a little bit in those other two departments. Now, again, if you really love to play them, then that's okay. Make sure that you're going to play whatever you want to play, but I am going to put them down at 7. Their total score was 17 out of 20. Assassination Rogue, 16.5 out of 20. Unfortunately, I had a really frustrating go with Assassination Rogue. I felt like it just wasn't performing very well, and I really struggled to be able to get my damage out there. And the survivability and the utility, of course, are top-notch, as all rogues are, but I just really struggled with the ability to get my damage off, and that was the most noticeable thing there. So Sub-Rogue is, of course, very different. It's coming up to 18. It's got a score at 18 out of 20. Really love the damage profile for Subtlety. It felt really good to me. Felt really strong. I loved playing it. So there's Subtlety up there. Outlaw Rogue is 17 out of 20 right here in the B tier. So they are all sharing a different tier here. You can see sort of the progression there. You get Sub is the best, Outlaw is second, and then Assassination Rogue for me really does hit that bottom row there. Okay, last 3. Enhancement Shaman, 19 out of 20. Really did enjoy Enhancement Shaman, even post-nerf, and the footage that I showed you was post-nerf. I did that Mythic Plus video this weekend, so don't be yelling that it's, oh, it must be pre-nerf damage. It's not. That was post-nerf damage. It's doing perfectly fine, and it will be very, very good in Dragonflight. Warrior, we've got Arms Warrior. Again, 19 out of 20. Really enjoyed Arms Warrior. I think that it's just so strong on its damage profile. You have a couple different builds you can go. You can do a Bladestorm build for AoE or a non-Bladestorm build, and you will still get over 100k on all the AoE packs that are bigger than 5 or 6 mobs. The single target damage is also very strong because of the execute windows and all their single target abilities just hitting so hard like Mortal Strike. Last but not least, Fury Warrior. Absolutely insane AoE rotation with Odin's Fury, Avatar activating Odin's Fury. Really have enjoyed playing Fury Warrior, and I think that it was very, very strong on the whole. So they're getting a 19 out of 20 for their rating. There you go, guys. That is all the melee DPS specs in a tier list. And we've got footage, obviously, in the video there as well, showing you my experience in Mythic Plus. Remember, this is just my opinion. I would love to hear from you guys and what you think your opinions are on what I've kind of chosen here to put these, where I've ranked all the melee DPS on the tier list here. I think this is fair. I think this is pretty fair. I think that there's a couple, you know, maybe Unholy DK could go up to 18 up here. That's maybe one change that I could make. But realistically speaking, I think that this list is probably fair. Let's say we'll keep it right here. I think that Unholy could go between A and B, but absolutely the S tier melee specs going into Dragonflight are going to be Windwalker, Enhance, and both Warriors. They're just so good right now. But again, guys, all of these are not that far apart. They're really not. If you really love playing Assassination Rogue, please go play Assassination Rogue. I just found, in my personal experience, it was really difficult to get the same kind of damage results that I was getting from all these other specs. So let me know what you guys think in the comments down below about this list. I am going to put this Microsoft Word document into the Discord. If you're not in the Discord yet, there's a link down below. Get in my Discord and you'll have access to this list that I have here. And you can check out all the details of why I gave these guys the different ratings that I gave them. I'll also post the tier set list in the Discord. It'll be there as well. So thank you guys again for watching. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.